Hello friends, I am Jocelyn, another day, another travel lodge room, and shout out to my friend Sophia Smith, also a very splendid model, who taught me about white balancing my camera. Thanks, Sophia. Yes, I am white balanced. Today I am going to talk to you about a subject which is, as always, very dear to my heart because this is all about indulging myself. Today I want to talk about the way in which sometimes as a model you can feel a little bit like a donkey giving rides at the beach when you're doing group shoots. But actually, if you are a studio owner who runs group shoots or a photographer who's thinking of going to a group shoot, there are some very easy steps for not making your model feel like a donkey at the beach giving people rides up and down the same boring bit of sand over and over again. And I am going to share these with you. Golly, it's warm. I've been in Norway for a week where it is not warm, and now I'm too warm in my clothes from Norway. Group shoots, for those of you who are not involved in the photography industry, are shoots where a group of photographers or a studio owner will hire a model to work with a bunch of people at the same time. I don't necessarily mean everyone is shooting at once. It might mean that everyone has 5-minute turns, one at a time, or it might mean that everyone gets to take 10 pictures and then the group rotates. The number of photographers at a group shoot can vary wildly, everything from 2 photographers sharing the model for the day to 20 people all in a room waiting their turn. Quite a lot of models don't enjoy group shoots very much for a variety of reasons. Personally, I'm one of the models who actually does quite enjoy them, with a few provisos. So I thought I would be maybe in a good place to talk about how to ensure that the model does enjoy the group shoots, because I know it's possible, because quite often I do enjoy them. So here is a rundown of ways to help your model enjoy the shoot and therefore give you her best. Once upon a time, I was at a group shoot where I was working outdoors in quite a challenging environment, and there were a number of models who were booked by a large group of photographers. There were probably about 30 photographers and about 3 models. Just towards the end of the day, when the shoot was kind of beginning to wrap up, a photographer had an idea to be shot in front of a big traction engine. And he wanted one of the models, let us call her Lucy, to do it. It turned out Lucy, very wisely, had already gone home. I, however, was still there. When this photographer was told that Lucy had gone home, he said, "Oh, it doesn't matter, we'll have the other one," meaning me. Now, nothing makes me more mardy and unpleasant than being treated as though I'm sort of interchangeable. Obviously, I know in a group shoot situation, the models kind of are interchangeable. I understand that a lot of people go to group shoots to get experience working with models for the first time. They're possibly getting to grips with their camera for the first time. It's all quite new, potentially, to them. And to an extent, it doesn't matter who's in front of your camera, but my God, you do not want to let the model know that's how you're feeling. Because I said, well, if it doesn't matter who it is, then I guess it doesn't need to be me. And with that, I packed up and went home. I'm fantasising. That is not what happened. That is very sad, but it's not what happened. I have, in fact, kind of convinced myself it is what happened. What happened is I stood in front of the fucking traction engine with a face like this, ensuring that he got the picture, but that he got a bloody awful picture, because I am nothing if not passive-aggressive. God, how embarrassing. One great way to make sure that your model doesn't feel interchangeable is learn her name. I know that sounds incredibly basic, but I think quite often it is something people omit. It's such a basic thing, but actually it does make quite a positive impression on people for whatever reason. I guess none of us want to feel interchangeable. Directing your model on your turn is a great idea. I think directing a model is quite scary for some people because I have noticed quite often, especially at group shoots, photographers tend to go very quiet. I'm guessing that, one, because they are worried the model will laugh at their direction or not find it very professional, or maybe they're more worried that the other photographers will be kind of judging them. So they tend to go very quiet, and while I'm completely sympathetic as to why you might want to go quiet, just even the absolute minimum of direction towards your model, talking about, for example, whether you prefer her looking into the camera or away, is a really good idea, because it allows us as the model to just slightly tailor what we do to you, so that you get something that's a little individual to you rather than just default posing. Another thing that I think is great is to not assume that what the model has just done for the previous photographer has any particular intrinsic value. One thing that happens a lot at group shoots, in my experience, is that a photographer will, while he's waiting his turn, he'll see you posing for other photographers, and then he will want me as the model to recreate some of the poses I've done. Now, that's understandable. If I've done something that particularly appeals to you for some reason, maybe it was an idea you already had that you wanted me to do, that's logical, I see that. But I think quite often people just seize on it because it's a thing they know the model can do. And so they'll say, can you just repeat yourself? And I think, one, it's frustrating creatively for me, because I know that I've got a good chance of being able to give you something unique in your go that no one else will get, and I'd like to have that chance. And two, I suppose it shows a bit of a lack of faith in your model, that you think the best she can possibly do is what she's already done. Whereas maybe having a little more trust in her will allow you, if you let her have a go at posing for you, she might be able to give you something that's completely unique that no one else will get. Thirdly, I think out of respect for the other photographers at the group shoot, it's probably best not to ask people to repeat what they've just done for another photographer, because especially if he directed me into that pose, it's kind of his picture, and I feel as though the most respectful thing to do is not to try to recreate something he has just created himself. Tell me when your turn is over. If I'm facing away, you decide you've had enough of taking pictures of me and you just walk off waiting for the next photographer to come in, I'm not necessarily going to know. I might stay facing away from the assembled company on one leg, on my toes, for an infinite amount of time before I realise, oh, no one's photographing me. It's a curiously dehumanising experience, and if you could endeavour not to give me that experience, I would so much appreciate it. This sin is something that really should be probably stamped down on for good in group shoots. Good studio owners and people running workshops will normally control this, but they don't always manage to, and that is people waiting their turn. Especially at studio shoots where flashlight is being used. By rights, that means really only one person can have a turn at any one time, because only one person can trigger the lights, so anyone else is going to be having to shoot with natural light in a studio environment, which normally isn't ideal, because the lighting won't have been set up for that. So it's quite often simplified. When only one person has a flash trigger, only one person can really be shooting. However, quite a lot of people will dial up their ISO and carry on shooting anyway. There are a few problems with this. One, it means especially if I'm looking away from the photographer, I won't know necessarily who's shot. If my eyes are open, I'll be able to tell, because the flash will be triggered when the photographer whose actual turn it is has taken a picture. But if my eyes are shut, I won't necessarily know that. So when I hear a shutter depress, I will think the photographer whose turn it is will have had his go at the pose, and I'll move. If it's someone else shooting, it means the photographer who should by rights be getting the picture isn't necessarily getting it. Secondly, there's often only one angle that any pose looks good from, and when I'm posing at a group shoot, I will be directing my pose towards the photographer whose turn it is. That means if you are 45 degrees away shooting, the pose really isn't designed necessarily to look good from that direction. Furthermore, if you're looking for eye contact, I'm not going to be giving it to you, and so you're going to get an inferior shot in inferior lighting, and very likely with an inferior backdrop, because it's likely that in the background will be half a backdrop and a wall, or possibly a window. Thirdly, now this is not something that particularly bothers me, but it's something that my sister models, many of them, are very distressed by, and that is the fact that when you're posing, especially nude, a pose that's perfectly decorous from one angle and within the limits of what you're comfortable with might be extremely explicit from another angle. And while you might be consenting to do your pose in one direction, the angle that a photographer standing 90 degrees away is going to get might be a pose that you would never in a million years do. Personally, I think if you're going to come to a group shoot and sneakily trying to photograph my vagina, that's on you. It's no reflection on me. If you want to go home with a badly lit, badly set up shot of my vagina, be my guest, but think about what it says about you. But for a lot of models, that would be a really devastating and distressing thing. And so even if that's not what you're doing, be aware that if you are sidling around 90 degrees away from where the photographer whose turn it is, in the model's mind, although you might be shooting a profile of her face, she may well be thinking, oh my God, he's trying to photograph my vagina, which means that when your turn does come round, she possibly won't be particularly kindly disposed towards doing what you want. Yeah. And finally, it's a great idea to bring along ideas. Models, generally speaking, will not judge you for having an idea that they think is unoriginal or pretentious or whatever. They probably won't be thinking like that at all. I know personally, I'm just really glad if someone's got an idea that I can work with. It doesn't matter if it's an idea I've done before, it doesn't matter if it's an idea that personally doesn't appeal to me. Just the fact that you've thought enough to bring something to the party, I love it. What is not necessarily so great is if a photographer brings along a picture, sometimes of you, sometimes of another model doing a pose you've already done or that this poor other model has done and asks you to recreate it. By all means, bring along your ideas, but I think to use them as a jumping off point rather than slavishly trying to recreate something that's already been done is more respectful to everyone concerned. It's more respectful to the original model and photographer if you've brought along an idea that you want to use as inspiration. It's more respectful to the model who is in front of you because it implies that she will be able to bring some value to this as opposed to just copying something that's already been done. And it's more respectful to yourself because creating something that's yours, I just think is always of more value than creating something that's already been created. I think that you deserve an original image, and the beauty of photography is that you can do that. You can get something that no one else has ever done, even if it's only in a very small way different from stuff that's been done before. And I think that a group shoot is a great environment to try to do that. So do not despair, don't be afraid of going to group shoots, but treat us like donkeys at a beach at your peril. Look at the bags under my eyes. I spent all of last week in Norway on what was meant to be a walking holiday, but was in fact a fascinating adventure into post-operative tooth pain. Because I had to have a big old molar taken out the day before we went to Norway, and it didn't heal for the whole week. I did a lot of lying down, a lot of swearing in my head, and a lot of not looking at the Northern Lights and not skiing. Bloody hell. However, on the other hand, do you know what it did? It fixed my headache. I'd had headache behind one eye for 3 months, and the toothache fixed it. What the hell? I think maybe being old means this, that your body goes through this series of failures. So one thing's failed, it gets better just as the next thing fails, and you just jump like stepping stones from injury to injury, from ailment to ailment. I've just hopped from pain behind one eye to pain in my mouth. And I'm hoping that maybe I'll get some sort of hiatus between pain in mouth and whatever happens next. But I'll keep you posted. As always, please comment. Please be wise if you comment. Sometimes I'm very bad-tempered on this channel. I don't know why. I think it's because, and I'm horrible. God, I think I'm horrible. But isn't my jumper lovely? Anyway, thanks everyone, thank you friends, thank you as always for watching, it is always much appreciated. And book me for 2018, my dates are going really fast. Yeah, bye!